What's up, everybody? We're here at the Rtisan podcast, and today I have another great guest, a mentor and a friend. Just going back to the early 2000s, maybe late 90s, early 2000s, when CPS used to still fund the summer band camp program. It was kind of like not the precursor, but it basically happened before All City started.
Yes, it did.
And I was in 5th grade, and I was there with my cousins, and I believe you were over it. You were the head guy, pretty much. The HNIC, as it were.
I mean, unofficially at that time,
Yeah.
I would say, because they I guess they made some determinations about things when they started the RC program from there. But it seems like it seemed like I was like that, but I don't remember being officially there.
Right. You said the pay wasn't reflecting of that.
I'd say that definitely.
Yeah.
But no, it wasn't about pay anyway.
Okay.
It was just about being there and being able to help.
Right.
And,
right.
The love of music. I mean, music is a thing that can take you a long ways. I mean, a lot of great people have been musicians too. I mean, they, outside of musicians, doctors and lawyers, scholars, scientists, and all that kind of stuff. So you find that they usually have a music background. Great people do.
Yes.
And, but so it's all about music really nurtures the brain in so many ways. I mean, you got some mathematic components, you have reading components, but you have this rhythmic thing.
Absolutely.
But I mean, really, what science has been proving is that music really grows the brain.
Yeah.
It connects neurons in the brain and things like that. Speaking of neurons, so I'm trying to keep my music going.
For sure, absolutely.
Yeah, but it's so much the music does, and it forms. You have cooperation. You have to work together. Patience, because you have to sit there a lot of times when somebody else's part got to be worked out or something like that.
Right.
And, it's just one of the most wonderful things I believe that on the planet, and it take you a long way. Get scholarships for you.
Yeah.
It can help you to pay your way. I mean, it paid the way for me for college. At that point, my mother was the only one, for example, and so I thank God that gave me something to work with, and I was able to get a full scholarship to Livingstone College, and so I didn't have to pay a penny, and I'm grateful these days. You hear about all this debt that these young people.
Oh man, it's real out here. It is real. It is like it's like a dense, heavy cloud hanging over a lot of people in my generation before me, and the one to come. Honestly, So, yeah.
I mean, you're in debt before you get started.
Yeah, you really are. You really are.
How can you get started? And then you find that they have in historical black colleges, their debt is usually more. For example, or so so for people who share our heritage, that's just another pushback.
Right.
From allowing you to get started. Which we never really got started in this country at all.
Right.
We never got started because every time we've even achieved, even after slavery, or tried to achieve certain things, like in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I mean, these people had finances.
Right.
And then they used some kind of little excuse to burn them all out. Get the KKK in the blood, out, and here they are. They're burning down the whole. It was called Black Wall Street. Rosewood. How can you say pick yourself from your bootstraps when you don't even have boots?
Right.
Right. And then when you get some boots, they're gonna take those away and burn them too.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't mean to get all political.
No, it's all right. It's all right. Speak your truth, brother.
Independence Day was just recently.
It was.
But when we gonna get our independence? That's how I feel about it. Because we have it. I mean, you look at how the police attack our young people. I mean, just killing you, and they getting away with it. We thought Rodney King was going to be proof, but it didn't turn out to be anything. And people got video cameras right on it. They talk about, I'm afraid. You got guns? You got the gun? And all the time, these people don't even have a gun. They have a cell phone. Oh, I mean, if they just pull their hands up, oh, he got a gun.
Right.
I mean, any excuse to shoot our young people, and it's just not. It's not right. I mean, chokehold them. None of them get convicted. It's about, I think it's 1% conviction out of all these killings that the police have been doing. So holding us back. I plan on writing a book. I mean, how do you feel anytime the police they just come behind you? How do you feel?
I'm always nervous. I've eventually gotten over that, But there is that like kind of ominous feeling I do still have in the back of my mind. I feel like I can defend myself most of the time, but what you gonna do when somebody has a gun? For the most part, you're kind of helpless, especially like if you're in a car and they ask you to get out, and then you're not really knowing what's going on.
Right.
And a lot of times, what people used to say, oh, you just comply, and you see people complying, and they still get brutalized and verbally, physically, they die. So yeah, I think about that often.
Do you ever think about have you ever seen some things that happen with the counterparts? I mean, some of the things they do and get away with. Clive Owens, I think the guy was out there on government property with gun in his hand, ready to shoot somebody. Nobody got killed. Yeah. These white folks, they had sharpshooters up on,
Well, in Oregon, you had people shooting back at the police rather. I don't know if it was like a standoff for land or something like that, and I can't remember if it was the FBI. This was maybe about 5 or 6 years ago at this point. But yeah, no one died. And they weren't, they didn't send in the National Guard. These people were armed, and clearly they have some sort of weapons training, And I'm not saying for those people that they shouldn't have defended their land. I do believe that. I'm not saying that white people don't have the right to defend what's theirs, But you see, I think more or less what you're speaking to is how the government responds to somebody's basic rights and humanity when they look like us as opposed to somebody who's slightly more fair-skinned. I believe that's more specifically what you're talking about.
Yes, exactly. I don't mean to just be gravitating.
No, it's all good. Clearly that was on your heart, so go ahead and get it. Yeah. So,
but we can gravitate from there. But I plan on putting this book out and talking about really my story to a sense. That's I think a whole lot of people's story to a certain extent. Especially, coming up when I came up, I felt like I was the most fortunate guy in the world in many ways. Right. We were poor, but I didn't know we were poor.
Right. That's a blessing. Yeah.
But I was able to, overcome some things. Like one of the things I'm going to put in the book is, what is your first memory? What's the first thing you actually remembered?
Right.
A full story of. What do you really fully remember? I remember some vague things, like, when I was really young, it seemed like I couldn't go to sleep unless I heard Tune Green Onions.
The Dexter version? Yeah.
I guess the original version. But then I remember a time that I was sick. I was ill. My chest was congested. I remember I heard them say they can put a little liquor in it, to break up the congestion. I remember something about that. I remember going to the show. Movie theater, and really young. My mother's like best girlfriend. She's like an aunt to us. Yeah, she was. And it's after the show, I don't remember what the movie was or anything like that. They rolled up the screen. Out comes a live band.
Really?
Yeah, I was totally impressed. Wow. This is one of the things that stressed up with me. Like, so I see the music has always kind of been a part of me. Like, I couldn't go to sleep without Green Onions for a while. Right. And I saw that. That band, and just impressed me. So much, and but the first memory that I really have is between first and second grade. We moved from Marquette Road near Perkins Band School over there to 55th and Carpenter. I went to Oliver Wendell Holmes, and over the summer we go to Sherman Park on 54th and Racine, and we just like any other little children out there playing in the sandbox, going up and down the slide and the swings, and what happens is a mob. A mob was running through the park. Yeah. Get out of here, niggers! Oh my goodness! I mean, you're talking about fear. I mean, they were throwing rocks, had bats and sticks. They had bottles. Bottles were made of glass then. Yeah. Throwing cans. They were made of tin. Yeah. That happened. That was the first thing that really totally stuck with me. And the fear that I had.
What year is this?
I mean, let me see.
Oh, a decade rather.
This is around 1967. Yeah, 67, summer. 1967. I'm 6 years old.
Yeah.
No, let me see. Yeah, 67. Yeah, I'm about 6 years old. And it was the next spring, Martin Luther King was killed in April of 68. I was 7. My birthday is in November, so my birthday falls later. I mean, I'm 6 years old, and that's my first real impression, you know. And over the years, how like when the Evergreen Plaza was before we called it the Plaza. You go out there and man, you know, you were on the bus and coming around the corner, white people throwing stuff at you. Get out of here, niggas! You know, you don't know if they're gonna come back around.
Right.
You know, what you gonna do? I went to college. Heard them yeehaws down in North Carolina. You know what I'm saying? And they talk about the statues. Man, if I had the means at the time, because I've been a pastor's kind of guy, but after I found my passion, which is justice, you know, for everybody, you know, they had a statue right off of Main Street, one block off of the Main Street.
Yeah.
They want nothing to talk about Main Street, any street, you know. But they had this big, huge statue. You know, we walking up to the statue, and they say this statue is to honor all the soldiers who gloriously fought and gave their lives for the Confederacy. And they had an angel on each of his arms, lifting them up.
Really? What city is this?
This is Salisbury, North Carolina, where I went to school at Livingstone College. And I was angry then. I was like, who gloriously fought and gave their lives for the conspiracy? I mean, for the Confederacy. You know, that really, if I had the means, I would have blowed that statue up back then. You know what I'm saying? If I, you know, I mean, I'm not basically a violent person. I've never been a violent person. I've never been a person who's tried to start anything, and I can honestly say I've never tried to hurt anybody on purpose. You know, I've hurt some people by accident. But never, you know, really on purpose. But I felt that kind of passion for that. And in the police station, in the courtyard, in the back, they had a historic whipping post for slaves. That they would whip them, you know, publicly and whatever. Now, right behind the police station.
Really? And it was still there?
In the police station, I wish I could have burned it up. That was how I felt then. You know,
was it like outside or like within the walls?
It was in the courtyard, the back courtyard, but it was like, you know.
I see.
You know, it was contained somewhere.
Like in a gate kind of.
It was contained. You know, so those things kind of, you know, that in our life, just like I asked you, how do you feel when the police pull up behind you? You immediately feel some anxiety. Why?
Sure.
Why should you? You know, that's not right. But you got this guy in the presidency right now. I call him Donald Trump. He is not. I can't give him total respect because I don't know what happened to America. You know, that's why I got disparaged again because, you know, now we took like 2-3 steps forward when President Barack Obama. They didn't give him a chance at all. Mitch McConnell still in there right now. Vowed I will not. And so you see these people using the system that's supposed to be good for people and right for people and just and abusing it and how they've taken it. And this guy skunk all the things that he did. You know, any other guy running for president, they would have been cast aside. I don't know how they let this guy in. I wasn't paying no attention to him really. I never watched his show. I saw him in one of the movies, Home Alone or something like that. You know, he just went on my register. But then when he ran and you found out how he treated the 5
Central Park 5
Central Park 5 and how he treated them and called for their death and they're innocent. You see what I'm saying? What he evokes in people, he evokes the worst in people, and that's not good. So we took 2-3 steps forward, about 5-6 steps back with this guy coming in. And my opinion, this is going to be expressed in the book too, is that he's just trying to take this country. He wants it to be autocracy, plutocracy, oligarchy. You know, a Trumpocracy. You know, that's what I think his intent is, and I know that Putin got something on that dude. You know, I mean, you know, they talk about PV tape. I have some conjectures. You know, I don't want to express my conjectures here, but I think they really got some stuff on him, and I think that they also got into those booths some kind of way and changed votes. I believe I think they just don't want to tell America. This is part of how I believe. I think they don't want to tell America because America would be discouraged. But what they should do is like what many states do is have a paper ballot backup anyway. You know. So, you know. But I think that I said, well, so what happened to America? You know, one thing I'm expressed too. I don't mean to just be talking.
No, go ahead.
If you rearrange the letters in the word America, it spells I am race. You know, and that's what it's been. And you can take race in 2 connotations. You can take it in terms of skin color, and you can take it for who starts and finishes. Now we're talking financially and stuff too. All that's part of the race. You know, why did they have to? You know, the guy was named Amerigo. You know, Amerigo Vespucci.
Right.
You know, and you call it in America. I know we give it a female name, but it spells I am race. And it's been about that in this country, especially for people who share our heritage. Now, I don't call myself, and you hear me saying that, I'm going to put that in the book too, people who share our heritage, because I don't call myself colored,
right,
Negro, Portuguese term, for all the N-words that come out of there. I don't call myself black. I don't call myself African American. I call myself, because I've done some research into it, what the land was called before it was called Africa, because I was Hellenized. It was named after a white man.
Right.
You know, like most of like a lot of stuff in Africa. The hieroglyphics that they call it was called the Medu Neter. You know, they change all the history about it. So I found that the people there called the land Archipelago. There's no country in Africa called, well, quote unquote Africa called Archipelago. They also mention Ethiopia and they mention Kush. That's what the people call the land. So I call myself an American of Archipelago heritage via slavery. That's how I identify myself. I don't let nobody else identify me. You can take that too, ladies and gentlemen. They're going to have to put the other thing on there, you know. Because I ain't calling myself black. I feel fortunate in that, you know, I have one of those ethnic names. I used to hate my name, Gerrard.
Yeah.
You know, Gerrard Allen Matthews.
Right.
It sounds so Anglo. But when they came to profiling,
right,
you know, Gerrard,
yeah,
he sounds like a white boy.
Right.
You know, so I think my mother, she named us unusual names. My oldest brother's name is Gerrard.
Yeah.
We call him Gary. My other brother, he's deceased. His name is Garnell. We say Garnell in the neighborhood. Yeah. They say Garnell. You know.
Right.
They call me Gerrard. White people, but in the hood, I'm called Gerrard.
Yeah, right.
So
I get it.
You know, some of the things that I'm
yeah.
still going to put in the book, but all of that I'm talking about is going to be in that book, and really what our experience has been, and I'm going to do some of my conjecture, because, you know, and I think those people took leave of their common sense. You know, I mean, anytime you can adopt policies to go back on climate change.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest issue facing the entire world. You're going back on climate change. You see, in my lifetime, I remember this. I didn't hear about hurricanes when I was younger. I mean, maybe one or two, you know. And as I've gone along, I've come through this time witnessing, you know, the drastic changes in climate change. Floods all the time. Fires burning out everywhere. It's 190 degrees in Alaska. Ice shelves breaking off. Glaciers drying up.
Right.
You know, everybody's got some kind of illness because of the food and water, of the pollutants. And you want to still perpetuate that rather than go to a green technology. I don't understand why these gas companies didn't take their money and put it into green. They would have been making more money.
Right.
You know, but they want to hold on to this petroleum and stuff like that and tear the country up. I mean, the world up. And if we let them, it's going to be our fault for letting them.
Right.
You know, so you adopt policies like that and other policies.
Right.
You know, I can go on and on and on. That I have conflict with this guy Donald Skunk, who's in office. When he took advantage of that handicapped guy, and he was
the reporter. Yeah.
That's when he really came onto my radar. I say that man, it just.
Yeah, Obama would never been able to get away with that.
Nobody
really.
else. You know, So I think the fiscal kind of end. He was talking about it's gonna be voting fraud. Yeah, it was voting fraud for you.
Right.
You know, and I think he's gonna try to disparage the next election and say that it ain't right. He challenges anything that goes against him, and he knows he's wrong. And that's what I was saying. What happened to America? You took leave of your common sense. You know, and that discourages me because you know, I thought America was making progress, and it's supposed to be about progress.
Yeah.
You know, so but you know, I came through at a time where you had opportunities. You know, certain opportunities. They had the civil rights laws, and but they, you know, they fight them back. You had your token people of our heritage in a job, and then somebody say he get that job because it's a quota.
Right.
You know, that's reverse discrimination.
What is that called? I think
reverse
it was
discrimination.
affirmative action. Yeah.
You know, you haven't been discriminated against. I mean, that Civil Rights Act really was for people who share our heritage, who even after slavery ended and Reconstruction was abruptly cut off.
Right.
And first terrorists came into this country called the Ku Klux Klan to try to keep us in our place, and Jim Crow laws rather than the laws on the books. Right. And so we suffered through all of that still. So the civil rights laws was really for people who share our heritage. I feel for the natives. Mm-hmm. They didn't get a good deal, but they weren't enslaved. They weren't tortured. They weren't physically, economically, psychologically. It's about 7 things.
Some of them would disagree with you on that.
Yeah. I mean, but they weren't enslaved in the manner that people share our heritage were enslaved. They weren't enslaved. They didn't go in there and rape their grandmothers when they took advantage of our grandmothers any way they wanted to, and things like that. And and on down the line. I mean, all the way to this very day. America, where are we? You all let this guy get in there, and I believe he stole it. And here we're going backwards, and that's not right. That's not what America's supposed to be about. Look at how you're doing these cats at the border. You look at that, and they talk about how they separate the kids from their mothers and what that causes, toxic stress. You think back on how they ripped our ancestors away from each other, from our mothers. They sold you, ripped you away from your mothers and your fathers, and you talk about toxic stress.
Yeah.
We got it ingrained almost now into our genealogy, and because that's all that's been happening. They've always did that to our people, but nobody talk about that.
Right.
You see these commercials about people that have need, and my heart goes out. If I can help somebody, I will. These people over here, they got the violins and everything. They got dogs and cats. Look at these dogs and cats.
Right.
Will you help them? Well, they should put us on there. Yeah. Will you help us?
Right.
Because we've been abused. We've been neglected.
Let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
So there's somebody that's going to be seeing this right now
mm-hmm.
and saying to themselves, well, why can't you help yourself? And when I hear things like that, then I go into the rant that you just gave us.
Mm-hmm.
What responsibility do you put on black folks at this point, right now, to change their situations as individuals? I think too often people, especially black folks, look at other black folks and say, "Oh, we got to do this, and this."
Mm-hmm.
I believe change starts with the individual,
mm-hmm.
and I think when individuals change, they meet other individuals who have changed,
mm-hmm.
and then they go on and do great things.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think too often we find ourselves in a position where it's like, you get broke people trying to help broke people,
mm-hmm.
and as altruistic as that might be, right? Mm-hmm. Fundamentally, from like a financial standpoint, from a resources standpoint,
mm-hmm.
it doesn't really work that.
Right.
Not really.
That's true.
Maybe if you get a situation like you had back in the day with the black church,
mm-hmm.
and you had a lot of people who are all striving,
mm-hmm.
they can kind of come together and make communal decisions,
mm-hmm.
and that
mm-hmm.
propels us forward.
Mm-hmm.
But just you, what do you put on the individual?
Well, I think we can be.
Because let me just say, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's coming to help us.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I just want to, nothing is coming. There is no, the reparations discussion is happening right now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I have no faith in that.
Right, same here.
Yeah, but so I'll let you get back to it, but yeah, like given that fact.
Recently, I mean, that's a really deep question because, I thought about this. I said, what if somebody come in your house today and just snatch your family members, take your mother from you, take your sister from your house just right now? What would you do?
Yeah.
What would you do?
You're going to have to kill me.
Right. I mean, I'm going to get them, first of all.
Yeah, yeah.
So I hold some of that on our heritage. I know our ancestors were in stress over there in the native land.
Yeah.
But I would, you still didn't come back for me.
Right.
And sometimes you try to put yourself over that. But what I think we could do right now, because I've been giving that thought, and I've shared that too, because a lot of people say, I know what's going on, I know what's going on. And I said to them now, well, what are we going to do? Because when history says itself, okay, you got a lot of people who got to talk, well, how's history going to remember what did you do to change your situation?
Right.
I think one thing we can get more proactive in the politics, which you're seeing happen, but I think they should put forth a legislation to ease the burden, some of the burden. Since our people have been deprived economically as well as so many other ways,
right.
How about write some legislation to say you don't get taxed
Mm.
on anything?
Mm.
No income tax.
Right.
No sales tax.
Yeah.
No tax. Relieve us of a tax debt for how many years they held us enslaved.
Right.
I'm saying from this day,
right,
to, from when the legislation passed, at least that long. That may allow us to save some kind of monies
mm-hmm.
to begin to hopefully pull our resources together. We have to. We don't know. We've been so damaged that we hurt ourselves. And one thing I would like to start is because I have some things down the line that I probably will be doing some suing for because. But one thing I want to bring out too in the book is that we've been so hurt and damaged. But I want to fund some kind of thing, especially for men who share our heritage.
Right.
I know our women have gotten a bad deal too, but to have some kind of psychological outlet because we're angry. They talk about an angry black man.
Mm-hmm.
We have issues that have been unresolved. I would like to form some kind of organization to help us to deal with that, and hopefully through that too, maybe develop some economic programs. But we have to come together. We have to heal. We have to heal between ourselves. We can't be killing ourselves anymore, because that has been part of what's been put in play for us to do.
Right.
But I think we could start with some legislation and say we don't get taxed. Allow us to be able to pool some of our resources, and hopefully work together. And of course, you can't be denying us opportunities for business.
Right.
So that's one thing. It's maybe it's not large or anything like that, but at least it's something that I think we could do. But we have to heal.
Definitely.
First of all, and we need to have a means because they don't think we get depressed.
Mm.
They don't think we have issues out of hundreds of years of toxic stress.
Yeah.
That have been put upon us, and so I think that's one thing we have to do. We have to come together, find a way to get healed, get more politically active. Black Lives Matter. They could turn into something else. They could turn into something in terms of a political movement or something that
right.
That try to get proposals and issues in to help us. Every 25 years, the president signs a paper to say we continue to have citizenship in this country.
Mm.
George W. Bush was the one that signed it last.
Mm-hmm.
At least he had a kind of good heart. I mean, he wasn't right about Katrina and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But if this guy Donald Trump was in office and that came up, we'd be refugees in our own country. So we have to get politically active. President Obama did try to end that.
Right.
Mitch McConnell, they shot it down. We didn't hardly hear a lot of it in the news.
Right.
He was trying to get that ended because when slavery ended, they had some kind of clause that they have to sign this legislation every 25 years.
I'm going to have to look that up. I never heard that.
To allow us citizenship in this country.
Interesting.
Right. So that would be one thing. Get politically active, get that thing first of all ended. We should never have to be refugees in our own country and be dependent on somebody else to say whether we're citizens. We born here, we died here, we were enslaved here, we've been roughed up here, we've been deprived here, and then you still got the option to kick us out,
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah.
But we're going to continue this conversation. We're going to take a real quick break and then we're going to get back to it. All right, guys, welcome back to the Rtisan Podcast. I got Mr. Gerrard Matthews here, great musical educator. But we've talked about everything but that. But in relation to what we just talked about, I have a question. As two black men here who've grown up in Chicago,
Yes.
I've had the great fortune of being around a lot of really powerful men in my life, black and white.
Mm-hmm.
And men and women have an equal share in the growth of the community.
Yes.
But more often than not, I find myself when communities are distressed, there's a lack of male leadership. I mean, yes, we can talk about economics, we can talk about education, we can talk about all those things. What role would you say that the black man, in your opinion, maybe as opposed to when you were growing up and what you see now? Because you've had a hand in raising a lot of young black brothers, you know what I mean? a lot of different types of brothers. A lot of brothers of a lot of different ethnicities.
Yes.
You know, because you've taught in Mexican schools. You still speak Spanish? Oh, okay, all right, all right. So you know, you've taught a lot of different people, but what role do you think the black man has in today's society? Because things have changed for everyone, and things have changed for us. You know, and I see. I hear a lot of our women asking for, you know, men to be different. And, you know, there's some things I hear when I say that, and when I hear them say that, I'm like, yeah, they're right. And some other things I say, oh, but some of that might be on you. But as a man, and leaving the women out of it for the most part, what do you think that we need to do to take responsibility for the future prosperity of our people?
As I was kind of saying before, we have to educate ourselves, first of all, to know that we have had issues. And with that, we have to avoid the traps and pitfalls. It's difficult because they're set up, and it's been difficult to us to get any kind of economic advantage.
Right.
But we have to avoid the pitfalls that put us in jail. For example, you look at I see the disparities between situations. You had a crack epidemic.
Right.
You know, what did they do with those crack addicts?
They got locked up.
They got locked up. They have an opioid. But the crack victims were people who most share our heritage. You have an opioid addiction problem right now, affecting mostly, people who live in West Virginia. You know, for example, the people who share that ethnicity. And what are they doing? Now they're trying to write laws, you know, to even go after the pharmacies. Right. Now, we never had a means to bring any kind of pharmaceutical medications and comforts into this country, but yet we've got the bulk of the pitfalls from it. So we have to begin to avoid. We have to educate ourselves and understand. We have to avoid these pitfalls first of all, and it's tough because we've been emasculated in this country. We've been put in a situation where it is difficult for a woman to respect us if we don't have a job. You know, I mean, it's your nature to want to be able to take care of your family. You know, you want to take care of yourself and your family, and you've been deprived of that. So, you know, oftentimes they will pit us against each other with our women. They will hire our women before they hire us. And sometimes they fall into a pitfall of getting snooty, like, I didn't, but they've had the hard time too, no doubt. Right. My mother's been in a situation where she had to train employees, and then they become her boss. I mean, she got all the information, but she was deprived. Right. You know, so I understand that our women have really got a bad deal as well, but they pinpointed us. So we have to, first of all, try to avoid these pitfalls. Then I think we have to get political. I mean, we have to maybe drive the political force. I mean, you see women driving the political force. 100%. You know, some of our male politicians, they get caught in these pitfalls and traps, thinking that they can, do like some of the other aldermen, for example, or other leaders, and how they try to get greedy. Right. You can't be greedy. You have to really look out for your community. Our aldermen in our neighborhoods need to do something. First of all, bring some economic development into our communities. You have to stand together. We have to stand together. Get a more political thing. Like for example, I'm saying pass this legislation. Maybe come up with some other good ideas. Right. That's just one idea. It don't have to be the only idea. Right. So we have to avoid those pitfalls first of all, and try to like I said, maybe set up some things that we can begin to understand how we've been affected. So we have to heal, and then let's come up with. We have to form some kind of economic unions. Right. Right. But don't be afraid to speak out. I mean,
Be leaders. It sounds like what you're saying. Be leaders. No. Yeah, I agree with you 1,000%. I know you got somewhere you got to be very shortly, so you have a new project that you got coming out and things that you want to get into. What are those things?
Well, besides the book, I don't want to give the title of it yet. I got some tracks coming out. You know, I'm a musician and I like variety music. You know, I've been classically trained, but you know, I've gotten to my roots. You know, and trying to bring my flute out. But you know, some things I played with a group called Smoke City back in the '80s. Early '80s, and we had some records out. They played on GCI. You know,
I did not know that actually. Some
pop stuff. You know, funk R&B. And you know, actually, I wrote a couple things back in the day, ready for our next project.
Right.
You know, and they never got a chance to get out, so I want to get them out. Time has evolved, and I've evolved with the times with some of that. And one of these tunes is called "Life in the City," which kind of talks about these issues maybe I've been talking about too, and I've been trying to get a young rapper on the scene, you know, to just understand the concept and then put that line down, put some lines. But it turns out strange things happen, you know. But I never was able to get somebody to do that was really young. So I ended up putting it right down there on myself. You know, so I listened to it and stuff, you know, and shared it with some of my young associates, and I didn't tell them nothing about it, you know. And then I told them, that was you, G. That was you. You know, so I think they have some possibilities, a few things, and I want to get that out there to try to, again, share with us, hopefully educate us in some way of what we've have been experiencing.
Yeah.
You know, and so I want to put that on out there too. But I would really like to start some kind of organization for us as men who share our heritage to be able to have some kind of outlet. For the stress and strain that we've been put under. So if I'm successful with these projects, I'm going to start that program too. So I hope I can be successful in that, and you know, hopefully help us to heal ourselves, so we can go ahead and help our children and help our own future.
Right.
Because as you said, they're not going to give us nothing.
Right.
You know, I mean, shoot, how did they get it? They took it. I'm not saying, you know, we don't have to be unfair, but you're going to have to take the steps, if that be the case, to, you know, make it happen for yourself. Because if you just be mealy-mouthed, because that's how I used to be, you know, you know. Right. But I found that, you know, solutions, ideas, you know, some people come over and I say, well, I thought about that too, you know. So I had to step out a little bit more and be a little bit more proactive than being passive.
Right.
You know, so we have to do that collectively, you know, all of our people work together. But yeah, I would like to get those projects going so that I can help us to find out that we've been hurt and that we have to heal, and then let's go from there. Because, you know, form some solutions.
Right.
Before it's revolution.
Right. Well, what is it? Gil Scott said the revolution will not be televised. Well, hopefully it is in today's society. Hopefully it, you know. Well, I think it is being caught on these camera phones. You know what I mean?
Definitely documented.
Absolutely. And one thing is, we have been saying these things for a long time. A lot of people have been saying these things, and a lot of people have been saying, "Yo, like that was planted on me," blah blah blah. And you're seeing all these stories come out now that these things are actually true.
Yes.
You know, let's not forget. I believe it was 2016 that the Chicago Police Department was found to be by an investigation conducted by the FBI was found to be carrying out racist practice. And I've heard from people. There's a lot of people in my generation that have joined the police force and said that things are changing. And I'm going to take their word for it because they're actually in it. And you know, some of them look like us, and some of them speak Spanish, and some of them are, you know, first generation from wherever. You know what I mean? So they may not enjoy a lot of the privileges that some other people have enjoyed, you know. So I do think there is a change in the air, so to speak. But, you know, for myself a lot of times, and clearly for you, it's not coming fast enough, you know. And I want to thank those, you know, because it's easy to dole out criticism, and we're not always as willing to give out thanks. I do want to thank those who have been a part of the change, you know. Who have been allies, not just to us, but to several other people, because we know that change on the scale that we're talking about, it doesn't just come from, you know, hurling sticks and stones from a distance. You know, it has to somewhat come from the inside.
Yes.
And I want to thank those people. There are thousands of names we can name, but just those people.
Thank you too. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know, if you find yourself, if you feel attacked by watching some of the things that you said, then maybe you need to look in the mirror. You know.
Well, you know, they say when you point the finger at somebody, your finger's pointing back at you.
Right.
So you have to check yourself too.
Absolutely.
You know, you know, but you have to be honest and in assessing, and you know, we've had it put on us really hard, so it's kind of hard to dig out of this hole. But I am grateful for it, because I'm put in the book too. It's not all white people that do, you know, these things.
Right.
Some of my great influence. My 7th grade teacher, a white lady. She's one of the people who is responsible for me being in music to this very day.
Right.
She was an art teacher, when it turns out too, for her background, and I don't know, somehow she heard I could sing. You know, I started singing Michael Jackson stuff.
Right.
You know, and she insisted, because I was shy. You know, I think she was drawn to me because I was shorter than her, and she was the shortest thing in the school.
Right.
You know? And you know, and she found out I could sing, and so she encouraged me to be a part of this little group they was having for the assembly, and we did by a cappella a tune, Day by Day. Back, I forget what the play was called. It was Jesus. It was a religious play. My man escapes me the name of the play. It'll come to me. But I led it. You know what I'm saying? First of all, she would take us to her apartment to work extra. You know, she lived right down the street from the museum. We look out on her balcony.
Right.
You know, she dressed us up. You know, she had us looking like hippies.
Right.
Tie-dyed. You know, she gave us the show. And from that experience, when I started singing, I led it out, acapella and everything. Talking about girls were screaming, oh! They said girls were fainting, oh! They wanted my autograph, because we had recently moved into the neighborhood. Okay. And so I was unknown, you know.
Right.
So that experience that rush is one of the reasons why I'm still in music to this very day. And she, when I went to 8th grade, she had me to go on her 8th grade trip.
Right.
You know, we went to Milwaukee. Her father had some ownership in a TV station up there, a news station. We got on the news, and everybody was quiet. They said, "Be happy, show yourself to be jovial." I saw the camera expanding. Then they came to me, I was like, then everybody started getting jovial. Right. That kind of thing. But she was one of the people who really affected me. I mean, the other thing was that I wrote a poem for her, because I don't feel like I gave her enough thanks.
Right.
You know, but there have been other people other than people share my heritage who have. I mean, they look at the guys who fought in the Civil War. I mean, they died. You know. Yeah. I mean, there's some righteous people out there, definitely, but you know, that are white and other ethnicity.
Yeah, that one.
I used to have a problem with the word strategy.
Yeah.
Had to work that out. But so you know, it's not all white people that do like that. And you know, I've worked with all kinds of people, and you know, and I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with that. I really don't. I just know that we've had a hard time. You know?
For sure. Well, Gerrard, I want to thank you, man. We actually got to have a part 2, man, because I see them getting ready to go, and I'm sure you guys can hear them a little bit. But
we're gonna be out at Cyber Museum for the festival out there, July 17th.
What July 17th is how we
They have a jazz festival.
Okay. What's the name of the group? So they can
this
check
is
you
Mike
guys out.
Ross. Mike Ross and the Boss 8.
Okay.
Mike Ross and the Boss 8.
All right, Mike Ross. That's your free shout out, man.
he was just summoning the sun.
Yeah. All right. No doubt. Well, we'll let you go, guys. We got so much more content. I'm definitely gonna have this guy on for a part 2, because he was a CPS teacher for what, 30 years, something
24.
like that. 24.
Mm-hmm.
That's a long time to be teaching y'all nappy head kids. So
most of them.
Yeah. Most of them pretty good, but yeah, so stay on the lookout for all of the new content, and stay on the lookout for part 2 when I can finally wrestle this guy down again for another interview.
Thank you.
All right, no doubt. All right, no problem. Thanks, Doc. I appreciate you. Take it easy, guys. See you next time.